Heavenly Father, we thank you for the gift of people who join hands and hearts in intentional support through physical and financial contributions for the betterment of our community. We ask during these challenging times that we do not become part of the if-only syndrome, but keep us focused in our commitment as responsible and trustworthy stewards to our citizens in these changing times. We ask for your blanket of safety placed over our troops serving all of the world. In your name, amen.
Amen. Thank you. All members of council are here this evening. We have to approve the expenditures.
I'm going to step off. Rourke, I'm going to step off of this. Just to clarify, though, HDR SR Beard and Associates keeps popping up in the accounts payable, and I want to make it clear that I work for HDR Engineering, and HDR Engineering and Architecture are two separate companies, but for appearance purposes, I recuse myself from this, even though you've advised me in the past that I likely don't have a conflict when it comes to this.
Okay, Vice Mayor Antoniak has recused himself from the vote for the September 2008 expenses. Are there any questions or comments on the expenditures? Okay, could I have a motion to approve them, please?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, I'll go with Councilmember Cavalier and Councilmember Holland. All those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye, please.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, 6-0. Vice Mayor Antoniak returns to the dais. Now move to communications, and we have a very interesting one, and one we're very proud of. Patty Evans, will you present, please?
Evening, Mayor Kavanaugh and City Council members. It's great to be with you tonight. It's very exciting for me to be able to give you a presentation in unison with Connie Stepnitz regarding our Make a Difference Day and the activities that took place this past weekend, and actually for the last couple of months. It's almost taken 2 months to lead up to this past Saturday's efforts. Make a Difference Day is the opportunity to bring volunteers together from all different walks of life and to make a difference in our own communities. And we've had that opportunity. We've got a great little presentation for you coming up in a slideshow that's going to go very fast, so pay attention. But in the meantime, Connie's going to give a little introduction very quickly of the players that helped us make this happen, so I'm going to let her do that. Thanks, Connie.
Thank you. Mayor and council members, about 3 months ago, the 3 Rotary clubs, Litchfield Park, Australia, and White Tanks, contacted the city, and they asked us if we would partner with them. They had grant money available, and they wanted to do some projects in their community. Nancy Harrington coordinated the project. This is the first time that 3 clubs have ever come together to coordinate and work together on a single project. And it turned out that we actually ended up doing 3 projects, 2 in the city of Goodyear and 1 at the cemetery in the county. What we'd like to do is we'd like to have the slide presentation put up for you to take a look at so you can see what great work we did. And at the end, we'll give you a brief view.
I think the only thing we left out was music.
Music.
Perhaps. Didn't think of that.
Let's sing.
There are actually 4 projects, and they included the cemetery cleanup, the work at Eddie's home, and then the work that was held up in help me out here.
Mobile.
Mobile, thank you.
And an alley cleanup.
The house had 3 walls full of bees, and they had to be removed before any of the actual work could be started on the home. These are before and after shots of the home so that you can see where we actually tore away, the volunteers did, to look and see what was going on behind the walls. And then the real work began.
This is incredible.
And this is, you've got to go by and see this house. You won't believe it. We literally stripped down to the walls, the volunteers, I had nothing to do with this. The volunteers did all of this work, stuccoed, painted, And the outcomes are beyond just the work in the house. It's a lot of times meeting with the people that benefited from that effort. And Eddie got a lot of attention that day. This was the backyard before. There was a shed that had to come out, several trees cut down and removed, a cactus that had to be cut back. It was just huge. Then we got to the part where we could actually grade and bring more sand in, make the back and the front yard look better. He has an old car I'm still trying to talk him out of. And look at the end.
Wow.
I mean, it's incredible.
Where's this home located?
It is in, give me the exact address?
Wow.
701
East Via Elena in North Subdivision.
Between $1,000 and $8,500 were contributed by those individuals, and then altogether, we had 570 hours on this project. The project total was $40,000. And I'm going to let Connie kind of run this one down for you.
We took 2 vanfuls of volunteers to Mobile. We had a Rotary kickoff where county supervisor and the mayor came, and here are the volunteers making an R for the Rotary. We supplied books and stamped them for the school. And here you see 2 of the volunteers, Bob Carrier, one of our own city workers. We built a giant industrial sandbox for the kids there. There's the finished product. We painted inside the kitchen and the office administrative areas of the school. There was a lot of prep work that was done weeks before we came down. All we had to do was tape it off and paint it. Dr. Wood and her staff pitched in and helped us. We sandblasted the exterior of the wall. The school is going to repaint it themselves. And there you see our sandblasters. There are 2 retention basins that needed to be fixed. We took out some dead trees, and we planted, or were preparing to plant 2 box trees. They haven't been put in. The fire department helped dig the holes, and they also were the chefs, which we greatly appreciated. There's the group of volunteers that went to Mobile. It's a special thanks to and all the contributors. 210 hours, $6,000 was contributed just to the school in Mobile. What we'd like to tell you is that these 4 projects were supported by 125 volunteers, over 1,000 hours of people who are dedicated to making a difference in their community, and almost $70,000 worth of work that was donated either in materials or in kind. At this time, we'd like to bring up Dr. Wood, Superintendent of Mobile Elementary School, and Pat Blair, the President of the School Board. They wanted to say a few words of thanks.
Thank you, Connie, Mayor, City Council. I am Kit Wood, the superintendent, and this is Pat Blair. She is the president of our governing board. What we want to say are heartfelt thank yous. It was, we were just on pins and needles wondering if we would be one of the projects selected, and we just felt so blessed that we were one of those projects that the 3 Rotary clubs identified. It was incredible this morning. The students, after they ate breakfast, we said, okay, we're going to take a walk. And they went over and looked at the sandbox, but they didn't spend too much time looking. They were in that sandbox right away. We said, okay, we have to call a halt to this now. You can play later, but the sandbox was an incredible hit with them. And our office and our cafeteria, they are bright and shiny. Our grounds look so much better, cleaner, and we have preparation for other projects, as you see in the sandblasting that took place on the multipurpose room. So thank you very much, and so much thanks to the Rotary clubs and Nancy Harrington. She has just been incredible throughout this whole project, and yes, it has been a 2-month process, and thank you very much. Our students and our community and our staff, we are very thankful for your donations, your efforts, and all the work that was done. Ms. Blair.
All I can say is I took a long time stamping books because I had to read them beforehand. I was back in there this morning reading books. So my thing is books, so I want to thank you very much. The school was bright and cheerful, and when I went into the kindergarten class this morning, all their papers were on the sandbox. They had pictures and drawings, so they're very appreciative, and we say thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Very quickly, if I could ask the front row here to stand, we'd like to recognize the Rotary leadership that brought these projects to you. Nancy, if you could, each of you introduce yourself.
Absolutely. Nancy Harrington, President-elect of Litchfield Park Rotary Club.
Clara Brill, President-elect of the Estrella Rotary Club.
I'm Bob Cherry. I'm the president of the Estrella Rotary Club.
David Lesnick, President-elect of White Axe Rotary.
Thank you very much. Last but not least, we'd like to mention or recognize Tammy Billman. The work that was done on the home was not done through the Rotary. Tammy was the project manager and coordinated all of the donations that were done through for the house. Thank you very much, Tammy.
I recognize at least one more that was there 6:30 Saturday morning. That's Nikki. Are there any others that were? Okay, Nikki. So they had a great turnout. Okay.
I just want to apologize. I was supposed to be there at 6:30 in the morning. I caught a virus in the middle of the night, and I just couldn't get there. So I apologize, and thank you for all your hard work and your vision for our community.
Okay, anyone like to make a comment? I know it's hard not to, frankly, but
What are you going to say?
Yeah.
The proof's in the pudding. It was a great job.
yeah.
made a difference.
Yeah, sure did. It was a
Great.
great job. It was
Wonderful.
fantastic.
Yeah, we have had a string of successes lately by our citizens. Really, it's great. The Oktoberfest gave to the New Life Center. We have the Relay for Life. We had the Rotaries here actually renovating a school within our community. So they just one right after the other. So we're very proud of all of our citizens, but certainly the Rotary, you did a lot for your community, and I don't think it surprises us, frankly. That's the way you are. You give all the time, so we thank you very much for that. Thank you.
Let's give them one more hand of applause.
Okay, now we'll move to an opportunity for any citizen to comment, address this council on any subject which is not on this evening's agenda. Would anyone like to comment on a non-agenda subject? Okay, seeing none, we'll move to consent agenda, and I'll ask the city clerk to read items A through K by title only, please.
Item A, approve draft minutes of a work session, regular meeting held on September 22nd, 2008, and a work session and a regular meeting held on October 6, 2008. Item B, adopt Resolution 08-1266, providing notice of the primary and general elections and authorizing the city clerk to enter into any agreements necessary to provide services for the March 10, 2009 primary and May 19, 2009 general elections. Item C, approve a final plat for At-Home District Parcel 1, subdividing 9.572 acres into 5 commercial lots generally located at the southeast corner of Bullard Avenue and McDowell Road within the At-Home District Planned Area Development District, subject to stipulations. Item D, 1, approve the 2007 Buffer Zone Protection Plan Palo Verde Grant Program Award from the Arizona Department of Homeland Security in the amount of $39,375, and authorize the mayor to sign all documents with regard to the 2007 VZPP Palo Verde Grant Program Award. Item D2, adopt Resolution 08-1267, authorizing the mayor to execute an intergovernmental agreement for participation in the 2007 BZPP Palo Verde Grant Program Award between the Arizona Department of Homeland Security and the City of Goodyear. Participation in this IGA will allow the city to receive $39,375 for the purchase of handheld detection monitoring equipment used for hazardous materials response. Item E, 1, accept the Goodyear Police Department and Goodyear Fire Department grant awards from the Arizona Department of Homeland Security in the amount of $4,000 for each department, a total of $8,000, and authorize the mayor to sign all documents with regard to the Goodyear Police Department and Goodyear Fire Department grant awards. Item E2, adopt Resolution 08-1268, authorizing the mayor to execute intergovernmental agreements for participation in the Goodyear Police Department and Goodyear Fire Department Urban Area Security Initiative, Assessment Teams, Terrorism, Liaison Officers Grant Program between the Arizona Department of Homeland Security and the City of Goodyear. Item F, Council ratifies the Police Department application for grant funds in the amount of $52,914 for the funding of monies spent related to abatement and enforcement of driving under the influence. Item F2, Council authorizes the City Manager and Chief of Police to sign all documents concerning the grant. Item G, approve the request for a use permit to allow a convenience use Carl's Jr. Restaurant with drive-through on a 1.68-acre parcel in the Canyon Trails Town Center, a 91-acre commercial center generally located at the northeast corner of Cotton Lane and Yuma Road within the Canyon Trails planned area development, subject to stipulations. Item H, authorize the city manager to execute both the supplemental environmental project agreement between the city and Crane Company and the related escrow documentation between the city, Crane Company, and Wells Fargo Bank. Item I, accept the dedication of portions of Bullard Avenue rights-of-way, public utility easements, and temporary construction easements between Interstate 10 and Van Buren Street. Item J, authorize the city manager to execute all documentation necessary, including a final petition to establish a new service area right for establishment of a new water service area. Item K, accept the dedication of a water line easement and a water and sewer line easement generally located off of Wilson Lane and South Santa Irene Drive near the west property boundary of the Estrella Mountain Ranch Parcel 58 residential development.
Okay, thank you. Would anyone in the public wish to remove an item from the consent agenda? Would anyone on council wish to remove an item from the consent agenda? Councilmember Osborne.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, can you please pull item G?
Okay, G concerns the use permit for the convenience at the Vestar development, and I think there'll be some discussion on that, so we'll just pull that, and we'll discuss that separately after a vote of the others. Anything else to be pulled?
What was it you called?
Okay. All right, then that's G, right? Okay, then could I have a motion to approve consent items A through F and H through K?
So moved.
Second.
Motion from Councilmember Lord and a second from Vice Mayor Antoniak. Could we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Sousa?
Aye.
Councilmember Cavalier?
Aye.
Councilmember Lord?
Aye.
Councilmember Holland?
Aye.
Councilmember Osborne?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Antoniak?
Aye.
Mayor Kavanaugh?
Aye.
Passes 7-0.
Okay, now we'll go to what is G, use permit to allow a convenience use Carl's Jr. Restaurant with drive-through at the northwest corner of Cotton Lane and Yuma Road within the Canyon Trails Town Center. Bob Coombs.
Mayor, thank you. This is a use permit for convenience use, a restaurant, Carl's Jr.'s with a drive-through facilities. This will be constructed on a pad within the Canyon Trails Town Center at the northeast corner of Cotton Lane and Yuma. This is the entire Canyon Trails Town Center development. Carl's Jr.'s would be located on this pad interior to the center. The proposed Carl's Jr.'s restaurant building will include indoor seating in addition to the proposed drive-through. The building will contain approximately 2,900 square feet. Customers using the drive-through lane will be provided ingress This is a site plan of the Carl's Jr.'s drive-through. Access to the drive-through will be internally along the north side of the building, moving along the west side where they'll pick up their food order, and exiting to the south and to the east, again, interior to the Canyon Trails Town Center. Staff finds that the proposed use is compatible with the existing and planned land uses within the area and will not be a detriment to surrounding properties. All of the surrounding uses on all sides are also commercial within the town center. Conceptual development plans for the Carl's Jr.'s have been reviewed and provide adequate traffic access, queuing lanes, and pedestrian circulation for the proposed drive-through restaurant. I know there's been some questions regards to other pads and potentials for other drive-through restaurants within Canyon Trail Center, and potentially also questions regards to other corners. So I'll walk briefly through this development as well as the other corners of this intersection. And this is the site plan for the Canyon Trail Town Center. The town center is approximately 90 acres in size and contains two large retail users, Target and Home Depot. Target, which has been constructed. It also has other majors, as you know, have been constructed on the property and just recently opened. What I've shown in here is Canyon Trail Sound Center also contains a large number of freestanding pads, approximately 20 or more. On this site plan, I've indicated again, Carl's Jr.'s is located interior. We have approved the use permit for a Jack in the Box located on this pad. It is under construction. Use permits, or excuse me, 2 banks have been constructed on these 2 pads. The approved zoning for the Canyon Trail Center, the PAD, approved also uses for Danny's Family Car Wash and Convenience Store in the southeast corner. And as you see throughout the site, noted in red, are other pads within the town center. Again, there's approximately 20 overall. Some of these pads could be locations for other drive-through restaurants and or retail shops. That's unknown at this time. I want to point out also within the center of Canyon Trail Town Center are these buildings, which are retail shops that have been constructed. This was planned as being that portion of the center that is the retail focus and kind of a Main Street environment. The shops are built up close to the drive with parking in front of the shops. This was, as part of the overall plan, part of that pedestrian shopping environment. There are 2 other developments on the northwest corner and southwest corners of this intersection that are also in different stages of development and site plan and approval. The Village Square Shopping Center is at the northwest corner of this intersection. Again, this is Cotton and Yuma. In this development, there'll be retail buildings, and there are 2 pads out along Yuma Road. One pad is planned for a Walgreens drive-through that we have under review at this time, and the other one is a bank, and at least conceptually as a bank. In the southwest corner of the intersection is a development called Cotton Flower Marketplace. It has been zoned. Site plan has recently been approved on that property. That development is intended to have as the primary user LA Fitness. And as you can see, there are 4 freestanding pads within that development. One pad, Pad B, is a site of CVS Pharmacy with a drive-through that is currently in review and will go to the Planning Commission Wednesday night. And the other 3 pads are indicated in the conceptual site plan as drive-through restaurants, although that could change to our retail shops as well. With that, I'll conclude my comments and answer any questions. Also, Representative Vestar is here also if you have some specific questions in regards to Canyon Trail Center and the potential for other drive-through restaurants or drive-throughs on the other pads. I'm sure he'd be glad to answer those questions.
Okay, thank you. Before we get to opportunity for Mr. Mallon, anyone from the public wish to comment on this? Anyone from the public? Okay, Dave Mallon, would you like to speak, or would you like to answer questions? I don't see Dave. There he is.
Happy to if somebody has a question.
Okay, all right. Okay. Councilmember Osborne?
Mr. Mayor, the reason that I asked this to be pulled from consent was because there was citizen concern regarding this development. On the side of the developer, this area, I do believe, has been zoned as regional commercial, which in my mind gives it a higher intensity use, and so I understand a lot of the drive-throughs. However, this is in Canyon Trails. This was brought to us as being pedestrian friendly, and way back in my P&Z days, we were supposed to be having trail systems from Canyon Trails coming to this shopping center. And so where I understand the intensity of the area, and it's not neighborhood commercial, and so I understand the developer side that he has every right to have a lot of drive-throughs. But I just also understand that citizens' concern and that it is supposed to be a trail area. So I just would like actually to hear from Mr. Mellon. I don't want to say Dave. if you could explain your thoughts of the trails and how you're going to still protect pedestrians that may be coming down those trails to your center and to that Main Street atmosphere. I would appreciate that. Thank you.
Good evening, David Mallon, Senior Project Manager with Vestar Development, 2425 East Camelback Road in Phoenix. Mayor Kavanaugh, council members, and Councilmember Osborne, try and answer your question. I believe your planning department satisfied your wish a long time ago, probably 2 years ago, by insisting that we connect to the trail system, which is in the rear of the project, which we did, by constructing a very elaborate pedestrian link system within the project, which we did, by going through your actually being the guinea pig and being the first of your large retail user. We were the first developer to go through that process with you, which I believe included an even more intensive pedestrian link system in front of the Target, since it's over 100,000 square feet, which we built. And so all of the elements that you would like to see to protect the trails system are involved in this project, whether we have drive-throughs or not.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that. And I do remember those discussions. For sake on the, I don't know if you can show actually on Elmore or not, could you show us how it's coming through the trail, through your center, and those pedestrians are protected? Thank you.
Certainly, Mayor, Councilman Osborne. At this location, there is a dedicated pedestrian connection from the southern portion of Target to the east to the open space that's within the wash that then connects to the neighborhood to the east. That is the primary internal connection to the east. Of course, along the streets, there's also pedestrian connections and sidewalks. Internally, as David indicated, there are dedicated pedestrian sidewalks throughout the development along the primary spines. And if I can see those, there's one here, 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 and here, all that provide pedestrian connections between the pad developments and the primary majors.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate this. Just it also lets our citizens know that we are listening and that it's showing them on the big screen how it's going. Thank you.
Councilmember Lord?
Mr. Mallon, I think this probably could have been eliminated, having this brought to the attention tonight, and if this is true, the citizen was concerned, I understand sent a number of 2 emails to 6 different people from your company and on their website and did not get any response. So I have to tell you, we have very active and interested citizens in Goodyear who are not shy coming before us or anybody and stating their needs. So I'm not sure you're going to be developing more or the continuation of this, but please be alert that when our citizen does email you, that as a council, we would appreciate that you do address them and their concerns, because they are very, very interested. And I think the other thing that probably with people in Goodyear, it's just that, and it's the market, and we realize that, and it's the type of shopping center it is, but I guess people are looking for regular restaurants that you don't drive up to and around, and fast food. So it's that desire, and we understand that the market, it's difficult at this time. But have you had any interest at all in the shopping center to bring an eat-in restaurant, one that would be attractive to the neighborhood?
Councilmember Lord, we would like, I think we have 4 pad deals executed right now out of 20. We would like 16 pad deals tomorrow, actually a year ago. Sit-down family-style restaurants. I don't think I need to explain to you and the rest of the council the challenges that are occurring in our world today. We are 110% committed to the city of Goodyear. We've invested $80 million in this project. We've been around for 20 years. We expect to be around for another 20. We won't give up. We just need to persevere and keep trying. At this point, we are located off of the freeway, south of the freeway. There are only a handful, at best, of sit-down restaurants out there not sitting on the sidelines and willing to sign leases. And those couple out there who are willing to sign leases are going up on the freeway. That's where my world is right now at this moment. Don't expect that to continue forever, but that's where we are right this minute, unfortunately.
Up where, sir? I missed what you said. Going up where?
By the freeway.
Said the
I-10.
location, want the freeway, the I-10, you want closer. And I can understand your dilemma, and but it needs to be said to the public. And so by bringing this forth, you are explaining to this gentleman that wrote the email what your desires are and what actually is out there in the market. Also, you did come forth when we complained about the architecture and especially the Target. Remember the roof line, and I drove through there and spent some time in the stores this weekend, and it does look very nice, and I
Thank you.
appreciate that additional work from your company.
Thank you. I really appreciate that, Councilmember Lord. I would also like to make a comment about the email. I received 1 email, not 6. I've been busy opening Canyon Trails last week, and this week we're opening a 800,000 square foot project in Tucson, so I've kind of been on the road. But all comparisons that have ever been made regarding Desert Ridge Marketplace were all directed towards the design, the architecture, and the detail of the buildings. And our assertion was, and still is today, that our project will meet the expectations of what Desert Ridge looks like with regards to the detail and the design of the project. And I think if you go over and take a look at the project, it looks fantastic. It does meet the standards that we created in 2001 with the opening of Desert Ridge Marketplace. We never represented to the public, we never before did, and we do not this evening represent that we were creating a Desert Ridge. Desert Ridge Marketplace is a larger piece of property by 30 acres. Desert Ridge Marketplace is on a major freeway. We are not. Desert Ridge Marketplace has a movie theater as an anchor. We do not have one, nor will we ever have a movie theater as an anchor. And we've never represented that we would be a Desert Ridge. But we did represent that we would have the design elements and the attention to detail on the buildings as a Desert Ridge, and we met that expectation in our opinion. We worked hard with staff. Your staff worked very hard to make sure We created a unique design. There is no other project in the city of Goodyear or in our portfolio that has this particular design. It is unique.
And I agree, you did meet those design guidelines.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further comments?
I just thank you for taking the drive out and explaining the answers to the email. Appreciate it.
Well, Mayor, I do want to say, I've been out there about 3 times now, and I think it's a great shopping center. I think the Super Target and the way you've laid this all out, I think most of the people who live in that area, and at least I do, I think it's wonderful. It's not that far from my home, and I think the people in that neighborhood really appreciate the fact that you've done what you've done and done it very well. I've drove all the way through all of that. I've gone to the stores. Really, as far as a walking mall, Super Target itself needs some transportation just to get from one end to the other. It's huge, but it's a good store, and as are the others. But it's a good shopping center, and it's well planned. I can remember when we discussed those cross buildings over there in the center, that was quite an object, and I'm certain it's quite an undertaking for you. And right now they're mostly not full yet, but I'm sure they will be. But it's a good plan, and it looks good. I just want to say that.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Kevler.
Thank you. I cut the ribbon for Sports Authority Saturday morning at 7:30, and the store manager was very pleased with the turnout. So I hope that's a good sign for you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, could I have a motion to approve consent item 7G?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Osborne and a second from Councilmember Cavalier. This is not a resolution. All those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, 7-0. Thank you. We'll now move to the business part of our agenda. And it's public. We'll have a public hearing to consider the annexation of acreage generally located between Perryville Road and Jackrabbit Road. So I'm going to open the public hearing. Katie, you got it.
Thank you, Mayor Kavanaugh, members of the council. As you know, staff has received a request to annex 440 acres southwest of Rainbow Valley Road and Willis Road, northeast of Waterman Wash. The purpose of the annexation is to facilitate the development of a master plan community known as Terrasante. Staff has also received a request to rezone 848 acres to the PAD zoning district in concurrence with the annexation request. Staff received council authorization to move forward with the annexation process on August 25th, 2008. The map and blank petition were filed with the county recorder on October 6th. Upon filing the map and blank petition, the applicant must wait 30 days before they can collect signatures. And during the last 10 days of that 30-day waiting period, the city must conduct a public hearing to gather public comment and concerns. And that is the purpose of tonight's public hearing. Of the 440 acres, 160 acres are held by New River Sod Company of Arizona, and 120 acres are held by Stewart Title and Trust of Phoenix. Both of these entities are part of the Terrasante development and have requested the annexation. The remaining 160 acres is BLM land. This means that 2 out of the 2 property owners are in favor of annexation, which meets both the 51% assessed valuation and property owners tests. The property is currently zoned RU43 by the county, which means upon annexation, the property would be zoned agricultural urban by the city because the city cannot designate a zoning district with a higher intensity or density than that it has in the county. As I said, the applicant has also submitted a request to rezone 848 acres to the PAD zoning district. 568 acres of this proposed development are already within the city limits, and 280 acres are part of this annexation request. The proposed PAD would include 2,700 planned residential units and 115 acres of commercial land. Concurrent with the rezone and annexation request is also a pre-annexation development agreement, and I would like to highlight a few points of that pre-annexation development agreement. The site will be served by Fire Station 184 located at Willis and Rainbow Valley Roads, which is approximately at this little blue square here, with the orange area being the proposed Terrasante development. The developer has agreed to contribute $1.78 million for O&M contributions for the fire station. Also, Tusa Homes, which is building in the Astoria area, has obligated to fund the construction of the fire station, and there is a provision in the development agreement that if Terrasante moves forward ahead of Tusa Homes, that they would take on that obligation of building the fire station. There will be a separate fire agreement that would be required before preliminary plat approval to set out the details of that agreement. With regards to police, there will be a police substation at the Willis Road Fire Station, and the Terrasante Development Agreement will create the need for a new police beat. To help provide for this beat, the developer has made provisions for contributions for operation and maintenance of $1.8 million, which will be broken down into 3 payments of $600,000, the first due at first building permit. There's currently no water service available to the site, and the Integrated Water Master Plan found that the water quality in this area is of poor quality. So the developer will need to construct a 30-inch water line to bring water from northern Goodyear to the site. There is a 16-inch water line in the area that's serving part of the Newland development already, and it is possible that this could be enough to serve the development. So the developer will fund a study to determine if the 30-inch line is needed or the 16-inch line is needed before preliminary plat approval. If the 30-inch line is needed, then the developer will be obligated to fund the construction of that 30-inch line, subject to cost recovery. The development will be served by the planned Pecos Road wastewater reclamation facility, which has not yet been sited or funded, and the applicant will be responsible to fund a wastewater facilities study to define the exact location and size of the first phase of the Pecos Road facility. And again, this study will need to be completed before preliminary plat approval. This concludes my presentation. Again, the purpose of tonight is to collect comment and concerns on the proposed annexation. No action is required at tonight's meeting, and nothing we do tonight obligates the city to annex the property. The applicant is also available for any questions or comments you might have.
Okay, thank you. Would the applicant like to comment now?
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. Jeff Bliley, 4800 North Scottsdale Road. Katie did a pretty good job of giving an overview of the project. I'm happy to answer any questions you have, but I don't think I have anything else to add, really.
Thank you very much. Opportunity now for comments from the public. Any comments from the public? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. And we'll move to the second item on our business agenda. We'll have 2 votes on this subject. One will be notice of intentions. 2 notices of intentions will be 1 vote, and then we'll vote on when we'll have the public hearing. Tracy?
Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. I'm back with impact fees. The purpose of tonight's action is to adopt a notice of intent to adopt an infrastructure improvement plan for the Sonoran Valley area, to adopt a notice of intent to assess development fees for the Sonoran Valley area, and to set a date of January 12th, 2009 as a public hearing date. Can I have the PowerPoint? Thank you. Just a status to date. On May 12th, we did come before council and ask you to adopt a notice of intent, the same thing, for both Sonoran Valley and the Goodyear proper.
Tracy,
On July
get a little
14th,
closer.
okay, sorry about that. On July 14th, we had a public hearing and received comments from the development community. On August 25th, we came to the council and asked you to adopt the development impact fees, which repealed the previous fees. Council did that, however, we did not ask you to take action on the Sonoran Valley fees at that time. Staff requested Tischler Bice to revise the Sonoran Valley fees based on comments from the city attorney and the city manager on the development of the Amaranth. On the Amaranth development. On September 30th, the consultant released the revised report, and Harvey Krause and Community Development had a development community forum whereby they released the report to the development community. And as far as I understand, there was no comment. Changes to the report really aren't any different. There will be one zonal fee. It takes out Amaranth out of the development and will have just one fee for the entire Sonoran Valley area. The difference was before we were applying credits ahead of time. This time we will apply credits afterwards as part of a development agreement. If council adopts the notice of intent tonight, it does start the legal process of the 60-day waiting period. January 12th, we'll come back to council and have a public hearing. February 23rd, we would ask council to adopt the proposed fees, and May 11th, 2009, the fees would be implemented. That's it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Opportunity for comment from the public? Seeing none, I'll call for a motion to adopt a notice of intention to adopt an infrastructure improvements plan and a notice of intention to assess utility and non-utility development impact fees for the Sonoran Valley.
So moved.
Second.
Motion from Councilmember Susan, a second from Vice Mayor Antoniak. It's open for discussion.
I just have
Councilmember
one
Lord?
on A. It says here under the water and wastewater, it says the water supply facility which may be adequate to serve the site. That statement made me a little concerned on page 141.
Were you looking at the last item?
Which one are you on?
Am I looking at the wrong one? Can I not ask questions on that? It's too late? Did I miss it?
Yes.
You did.
You can ask questions, but we don't have to answer
I'm
them.
not going to answer it. Well, I guess I'm not going to answer the question, am I?
I think we can talk to the city manager afterwards and get an
Sorry
answer.
about
to
that. I missed that totally. Must be the coal.
I nudged you, and you didn't like that.
Okay.
I don't have a question then.
Okay. Okay. Have a motion and a second on the notices of intention. All those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it unanimously. Now I'll call for a motion to set January 12, 2009 as a date for a public hearing on the adoption of the proposed IIP and development impact fees.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion from Vice Mayor Antoniak and a second from Councilmember Souza. Open for discussion. All those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye, please.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it unanimously. We'll now move to the third item on our agenda for business, and that's the proposed amendment to the comprehensive sign package for Southwest Specialty Foods, and Joe Schmitz.
Mayor and council members, members of the public, this is a request to amend the comprehensive sign package that was approved for Southwest Specialty Foods back in 2006 to allow 2 additional signs on the support poles of the existing sign that's been constructed. The property at 700 North Bullard Avenue is split zoned into 3 different zoning districts. You have about 400 feet of C2 zoning at the front of the property. This is Bullard Avenue along the east side of the property. 44 acres of I-1 in the center of the property, and then approximately 22 acres on the west end of the property that is in the AU agricultural urban zoning district. The zoning ordinance currently states that any commercial or industrial development of 3 or more businesses is required to submit a comprehensive sign package to the city for review and approval. If any of the signs within the comprehensive sign package exceed the standards contained in Article 7 of the zoning ordinance, then the comprehensive sign package must go through Planning and Zoning Commission and the City Council. The zoning district standards for this property right now would allow a freestanding monument sign provided the height did not exceed 8 feet and the maximum area did not exceed 48 square feet. In the original comprehensive sign package for the property, the applicant proposed several signs mounted on a structure supported by poles located on either side of the entrance to the property. The proposed sign did not comply with the zoning ordinance standards in terms of the proposed sign height, which was 32 feet to the top of the sign, and the sign area of approximately 263 square feet, which was determined by an 8 by 10 enclosure of a three-dimensional donkey on top of the sign, this slogan across this sign, and then the sign identifying the gift shop. Also, the sign was supported by poles, which is generally not allowed by the City of Goodyear's ordinance. There's a requirement that the base of a sign be at least 50% of the width of the sign to avoid pole-type signs. During the review process, the sign was modified to include decorative bases to the sign that match the building walls, and the support poles were to be encased in wood trim that matched the wood that was on the building to conceal the steel support poles for the sign. And the council approved that comprehensive sign package on March 26, 2006, subject to certain stipulations, including one that specified that the sign area not exceed 263 square feet. On February 7th of this year, an application for building permit was submitted by Flasco Signs on behalf of Southwest Specialty Foods, and the application contained two drawings, one containing a drawing of the sign, which is what is displayed on the screen right now, and a second drawing that outlined the dimensions of the sign with sign area calculations. And the sign area was calculated by listing 65 square feet for the 3D figure, 122 square feet for the sign across the top, and then 96 square feet for the sign below the arch there. We want you to know that the actual, and the total square footage was 249 square feet that was listed on the drawing. We wanted to point out that the actual sum of those numbers is 283 square feet, and unfortunately the area calculation was not double-checked when the permit came in, but since the drawings basically that were submitted with the building permit application appeared to be in conformance with the comprehensive sign plan approved by the council, the permit was issued on March 19th. After initial construction of the sign was nearly complete, two additional signs were added to the support poles on the sign structure, one on each pole. Each sign, which looks like a hot sauce bottle, has a sign area of about 44.4 square feet, and that's what's on the screen right now. The next exhibit represents what it looks like on the sign as it exists today. Since the signs were not shown on the drawing in the approved comprehensive sign plan and they were not shown on the building permit that was issued for construction of the sign, a notice of violation letter was sent to the owner informing them that the signs that had been added to the poles were not part of the approved comprehensive sign package and nor included on the building permit. They were asked to remove the signs or pursue an administrative remedy by applying for an amendment to the comprehensive sign package. Staff further advised the applicant that by advising of this potential remedy in no way suggested that such a request would be supported. The owners elected to pursue the administrative remedy, which is the application that you have pending before you tonight. The proposed amendment requests approval to allow the two additional signs to remain in place and effectively request an 88.8 square foot increase in the maximum sign area from the 263 to 351.8. However, during the public hearing before the Planning and Zoning Commission, which was held on September 17th, the applicant submitted additional information indicating that the actual square footage of all of the signs is calculated to be 296.2 feet, as shown in the table in the staff report and the drawings in attachment 4, which I am putting up on the screen for you now. In this case, they indicated that this sign that goes across the top was 82.3 square feet. The sign below it was 53.6, and the small sign over here was 88.7 square feet for a total of 144. The three-dimensional donkey they calculated at 70.6 square feet. If I can scooch it up there. And that the bottles themselves were 38.1 square feet each. Which then kind of shapes up to this. This table is also in your agenda packet. And it compares the dimensions or the areas of each of these components of the signs and then how they add up. Whether it's 296.2 square feet or 351.8 square feet or whatever number it happens to be, the one thing that is clear is that the sign had been constructed, that has been constructed, exceeds what was approved in 2006 in the original sign package and was not covered by the building permit. In terms of staff analysis, staff indicated in the staff report that we had not supported the initial application in 2006 because we felt the request was essentially a freestanding pole sign, which is strongly discouraged by the city's design guidelines. It was noted that there are very few existing pole signs in the city, and that the city had not approved any new freestanding pole-mounted signs since the adoption of the revised zoning ordinance. The signs that have been added to the poles do little to change the appearance of the sign from a pole-mounted sign to a ground-based sign. Additionally, the materials for the freestanding sign should match an architectural element of the building. The sign approved with the original sign package provided stucco bases which matched the stucco on the building, and the wood poles that were to cover the steel support poles matched the wood elements at the front entrance of the building. The signs that were installed do not match any architectural element of the building. Likewise, in the original application as well as the current application does not address all types of signs, and the proposed freestanding sign has not been designed to accommodate any other businesses that could be constructed on the property. It would appear that the sole purpose of the comprehensive sign package is to allow a sign that is larger than what is normally allowed for a single business. The quality and character of the sign is inconsistent with the other monument signage existing and proposed in the general vicinity, such as the existing monument sign on Snyder's of Hanover to the north and additional signs. They do nothing to make it more conforming. In terms of the standards, the total area of the approved freestanding sign is already 5 times over what is normally allowed for a multi-tenant sign, and the sign height of 32 feet exceeds what is typically allowed by 4 times. While larger signs have been allowed in other comprehensive sign packages for large multi-tenant retail shopping centers, none of these signs had the appearance of a pole sign, and all were designed in a manner that was consistent with the city's design guidelines. The average size of freestanding monument signs that have been allowed to exceed the usual standards has been around 75 square feet of sign area on a structure of about twice that size, which is far less than what's been requested by the applicant. And in those cases, the larger signs were justified due to a need to identify multiple tenants within the building that couldn't be accomplished on the sign standard currently in the ordinance. Lastly, the additional signs were constructed without the benefit of a building permit and resulted in the total area of the sign exceeding the minimum. There was never any representation in the original comprehensive sign package or the building permit application that there would be additional signage on the support poles. We feel that to allow these signs to remain would be inconsistent with the previous actions of the city, in particular the Landmark Interiors case, where a sign was installed outside the scope of the approved sign package and without a building permit. And in that instance, the owner's request for an amendment to the sign package was rejected and the owner was required to remove the sign. For these reasons, staff has recommended denial of the proposed amendment to the comprehensive sign package. I will note that public notice for this type of request is not required. At the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting held on September 17th, no one appeared to comment on the request. The Commission voted to recommend denial of the request by a vote of 4-2. There are some additional attachments in your staff report of a number of letters of support for the business and the sign. And I would also like to point out that staff has noted that should the City Council choose to consider approval of the application, there are a set of recommended stipulations that we have included in the staff report if you decide to go that route. So that concludes my presentation. I stand for any questions that the council may have.
Okay, thank you. Any comments from the applicant?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, ladies and gentlemen of the City Council. My name is Charles Kellhofer with the law firm of Ridenauer, Heighton, Kellhofer, and Lewis. Our address is 201 North Central Avenue in Phoenix. I represent Southwest Specialty Foods. Ms. Linda Jacobs, one of the owners, is here with us tonight. Southwest has been in business for over 22 years. Their slogan is the ass-kicking thought, with a donkey or a mule kicking up its heels. The slogan is both a warning and an invitation. If you've ever tasted any of their delicious products, you would immediately understand that this pepper-based products have a kick like a mule or a donkey. In the late 1990s, Southwest was solicited to relocate its operation from Glendale, Arizona to the Bullard Drive area pursuant to a development agreement. They purchased 80 acres on Bullard Drive and have invested over $10 million in your fine city. Since it's been here in Goodyear, it's brought, we believe, a lot of positive publicity to the city of Goodyear. Their products, every product that goes out from their plant has the name Goodyear, Arizona on it. Goodyear has, in fact, used Southwest materials for its promoting how business-friendly Goodyear is. Southwest was requested to and agreed to provide products to your All-American City presentation in Florida. They've been an asset to your community. They've been a generous donor to local schools and charitable organizations. The company was featured on the front page of the Business Gazette not too long ago. The article, again, prominently mentioned the plant was located in Goodyear, Arizona. At its Goodyear location, it has a very unique combination of agriculture with over 30 acres in pepper production. It has a state-of-the-art food processing plant, which has won many awards for its design. And it has the gift shop that has a full line of all their pepper products and novelty items. Originally, when Southwest applied for its sign variance, they were seeking a ranch-style sign, similar to what is still prevalent in rural areas of the West. We believe the sign is entirely consistent with the agricultural area of the facility. I was recently driving back from Los Angeles with my wife, and she made a comment how all the cities along the interstate seem to look alike anymore until we got to Goodyear, and we could see the donkey kicking up its heels, and we could see the babies, and it really gives your city, we believe, a very unique look. Since the sign has been up, it has become a tourist attraction. People stop by to be photographed with the sign. We believe it has brought people into Goodyear to take a closer look at your city. The company spent, after it was authorized by the council in March of '06 to build the sign, they spent, on a 5-2 vote, they spent over nearly $100,000 to have this sign built. What is before you today is not the sign, it's whether or not the side post. Originally, as was noted by Mr. Schmitz, what was approved was to have a look of wood wrapped in rope. While the sign was being built, Ms. Jacobs here, who's not all that familiar with all your procedures and rules and regulations, had an idea that instead of having these bare posts, to put some hot sauce bottles. She did not understand that it was necessary to have additional amendment, so the sign was built that way, and then your staff comes knocking on your door, on their door. And then we're not here to disparage the city staff at all. Originally, they supported the original sign when it was first brought up, and then during the process changed their opinion. These are very tough economic times. You read in the paper, city after city is struggling to meet its budget. Their business is not immune from these tough economic times. They are doing what they feel is necessary to increase their business and to bring business and retail sales to their establishment there. And it is their belief that this sign, as constructed, is entirely appropriate. There has been a lot of support, and it's in your package, I believe, letters from the high schools, both Australia Foothills and Desert Edge High School. In addition, there's a letter of support in there from the Phoenix Christian Unified Schools. Finally, there are some petitions in there from citizens of your fine city. That has grown. We have over 134 of your citizens that have supported leaving the sign as it is. We're not aware of any opposition at this point, whereas when the original sign package was proposed to you back in March of '06, there was folks that were opposed to it. I think people now, once they've seen what the sign actually looks like, it is unique, it makes Goodyear stand out, and we think it is an asset to your community. There are certain stipulations that the city staff has recommended. All of those are acceptable to Southwest Specialty Foods, and they will meet all of them. Mrs. Jacobs does apologize for not knowing the procedure. They don't feel it's necessary to consult a lawyer every time they make a business decision, and this was one that they made without the benefit of counsel, and it certainly was not any intent to get around any of your requirements. It was simply an idea on their part of how they thought they could make the sign more attractive to customers and to help their business, and they try to make decisions based upon what is good for their business and what is good for the community. I did want to comment on one item at the very bottom where I have my finger. That is a wood which matches the wood trim on the building itself, so they have done things to try to comply with all the requirements. The only issue before you is whether or not they're allowed to add the hot sauce bottles as opposed to the wood wrapped with rope. Both myself and Mrs. Jacobs are here to answer any questions that you may have. We thank you very much for your time, and we would ask that the City Council agree to allow the sign to remain as built.
Okay, thank you very much. Do we have any comments from the public? Since the recommendation from staff is to deny the application, why don't we open it up for discussion first, and then someone will make a motion. Councilmember Holland?
I just want you to know that I am very proud to have your company in the city of Goodyear. I like to shop there. I've sent many Christmas presents out. And it's easy and it's good to eat. So I'm very proud to have you there. But I'm also disappointed. I'm disappointed because I believe that when you came in before to have the sign approved, that that the city more than met you halfway. I felt that we had allowed some things to happen, and we really had to think through that. And I guess I'm just kind of disappointed that now this new thing is up before the council. And I just wanted to let you know that I just felt that it didn't exactly match the way the building looked, so aesthetically I was a little disappointed there as well. So I want you to know that I'm not for this at all.
Okay, thank you. Further comments, discussion? Councilmember Lord, did you raise your hand?
Yeah, I have very strong feelings about this, and I'm going to tell you why. Landmark, which is a decorating store on Dysart and McDowell. I got the streets right. I'm not doing well tonight, so I'm going to have you check me. And it was a beautiful sign. And they were told by staff about the process in which to go through. They also said they didn't quite understand it, and they went and built the sign. And I voted to take the sign down. You know, you vote a council in, and our job is to create ordinances, to pass ordinances and resolutions. And this is an ordinance, a sign ordinance, which staff took a great deal of time in studying and brought before the council to make these decisions on how we would progress on our signs. And so now what you're asking me to do is to change that because you feel this enhances your business, a business which I agree with Councilman Holland. I've sent gifts over to ships when my daughter was in the Navy. I've sent them all over the world. We are proud to have you here. But I cannot, in all consciousness, say to you that this is okay for you not to abide by our ordinances on this sign. And I thought we were very clear at that last meeting on how the sign should look. So what you're asking me to do is to agree to this sign. The message I would be sending to all the other business people is, if it improves my business, and if it's what my taste is, then I'm allowed to do this. By being a citizen of Goodyear, it's my decision. It's not the council's, it's not the ordinance. And I'm not sure I think that kind of eliminates the government. It eliminates the process in which we're going through. So I'm going to deny that tonight because I felt at the time you came through, I thought the poles being covered with the additional bands went well with the building. So I will be denying that, your sign, the way it stands. Thank you.
Okay, we'll go to Councilmember Cavalier, and then we'll go to Councilmember Rosman.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I have mixed feelings about it because I realize what it's done for the community and for the city and what it brings to the city. And the sign itself, I don't really object to. What I do object to is the process. And it's very clear in the stipulations, and you stated that the owner was not aware of some of these things, and it was written out in the stipulations very clearly, and I'm sure they had a copy of all of that, and that surely was understood. So as I said, I have very mixed feelings about it because it's I know what it does for the city of Goodyear. I've been back east, Boston, and I've gone into specialty stores in the on the Freedom Trail, and I've seen these products in the stores there. I've looked all over the country, and I've seen these all over the country. It is it's a good mark for Goodyear, and I hate that this is coming before us this way. I really do. And yet, because the process wasn't followed, we can't have it because this allows every other building and every other business to do the same thing. I was approached by another business who said there weren't enough places on a sign for their business because all the places on that sign had been taken up and had been purchased by other renters in that commercial development. And they wanted to put out a tent sign, and the city told them, no, you cannot put the tent sign out. Does not conform to our sign package. The city made them take that down, which is proper. They did the right thing. So with that in mind, I wish that there was some way that you could start over and come back and try to amend some kind of an application, and not after the fact. Take the thing down, get it where it's supposed to be, and if you want to change in it, then come back with the amendment and let us consider it. But because you didn't use the proper process, I think it's unfair for us to say it's okay. But in any way concerned about the sign itself except what has happened and how you've done it. Now, if we approve this, we open the door to every business in Goodyear to allow them to do anything they wish. And we just can't do that. Then it gets out of hand, and I'm sure as owners, you understand, we can't allow this. You don't want something across the street from you that is really something obnoxious, because there could be something across the street, and they could justify it by saying, well, you allowed this to happen, so we're going to put this up. And maybe it does not conform to what your business is, and you object to it. And I don't know what that would be, but it's possible that would happen. Then you'd be very upset with the city because we didn't stop that business from putting their sign up the way they want to put it up. And so I think with that, I have to also join the others in saying I have to disapprove of it.
Councilmember Osborne?
Mrs. Jacobs, I have to tell you, and you know, I'm a retailer. I want you to know how proud is the word, how proud we are of your business. But personally, I have known you since I went to your place in Glendale at the warehouse. I used to buy the caseload for my own customers. And I've seen you grow. And the fact that we both moved to Goodyear is pretty funny. And I was quite excited, actually, when I saw your facility coming. And I got to be part of your history when I saw opposition coming your way from your neighbors when I was on the Planning and Zoning Commission, stating that your sign wasn't upscale enough. The staff was concerned about the guidelines that we were going above and beyond for. But you are unique. And I think we need to protect that as a city. I think that we all feel that we want you here. We know we want you here. We're proud of you. As Frank said, I've seen your product across the nation. I'm a native, and you have ass-kicking hot salsa. And I've had plenty of it. And I can say it kicks my ass, and that's not an ass-kicking to do. But let me tell you, I'm very proud of you. And it kills me to have to be here knowing that for sake of ordinances, for sake of rules and that we have to obey, that we have to deny tonight because you are so important. And you're important to me. And so I hate to say I apologize, but I have to deny this evening.
Vice Mayor?
I don't know how anybody's going to follow Joanne in this. I was actually sitting back waiting to hear Joanne's perspective because of her being a retailer and investing so much of her pride and her personal financial risk and financial stake in our community, which you've done a lot of as well. So I don't think I'm going to bore you with a statement other than to I guess mutually apologize for being at this crossroad, but based on the precedent I took with Landmark, I've got to go back to that same precedent. We made this gentleman tear down a $14,000 sign and then follow the process. There was some education to that process. And I do think that the character. I went out and I looked at your sign. I parked right next to it today. I got out of my car. You may have seen me do it at 4 o'clock this afternoon just to take a look at it again and the quality of it. And there's no doubt. I hope that it can be reused somewhere if you take down those, because you've obviously put a lot of investment into it. I'm almost tempted to ask you to go back to who is it? Not to throw your vendor under the bus here, but I will. Flasco Signs. I mean, they somewhat. I mean, they're a sign vendor. They should know part of the process. They should know what those rules and regulations are. And quite honestly, should have sat there and advised you and said, as my client, you're changing the spirit and the nature of that sign package, and you're changing the spirit and the nature of that. So I would encourage you to go back to them and say, look, let's go 50-50. I got to fix this now. Or let's go 75-25. You've made a great profit on my fantastic sign, which is a absolutely great banner ad for them in the West Valley. Not only yourself, but for them as a sign company. But they have a responsibility to understand that process as they're going through it. And I think that they somewhat did you a disservice here in not advising you, potentially not advising you of that process. So, but based on the precedent, it kills me, Linda, because I mean, personally, we've worked on a lot of philanthropic ventures here in the city together, and done a lot of good in the city. So it kills me that the personal aspect of it, I got to put that aside and look at the precedent.
Councilmember Souza?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Jacobs, I think you know where the donkey's gone tonight. You're going to get kicked in the butt. And I'm sorry to say that, but unfortunately, that's the way it is. We've been through this process before when we first began the negotiations with the original sign. And I don't know if this gentleman was your attorney at the time. I can't remember. But if he was, I'm sure he would have advised you, or the people who represented you at the time would have advised you again about the potential violations that the applications that we're going through right now would be in violation of ordinances. And as has been said here tonight frequently, ordinances are to be obeyed. If we don't have any rule. I'm sorry for you, but that's the way it's got to be. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, I think we've made progress. I think it's time for motion. Councilmember Holland, would you like to make it? You started it off very well, so.
I move that we deny the proposed amendment to the comprehensive sign package to allow additional signage for Southwest Specialty Foods based on the findings contained within the staff report.
Second. Motion from Councilmember Holland, a second from Councilmember Souza. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion to deny the amendment signify by stating aye, please.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is accepted and the amendment is denied. Now move to the next item on our agenda, and that's to approve a request for a special use to allow an AT&T wireless communications facility. And Farhad, you've got that one.
Thank you, Mayor Kavanaugh, members of the council and the public. As you said, Mr. Mayor, this is a request for a special use for a wireless communication facility proposed by AT&T Wireless. And what I have before you here on Elmo is the first exhibit attached to the COEX before you, which is the vicinity map, and I just wanted to orient you with the site. What you're looking at here is the intersection of Yuma Road and Cotton Lane. The lease area for this wireless communication facility is located about 1,000 feet south of Yuma Road and about 245 feet west of the Cotton Lane center line. What you have directly to the west is the Cotton Flower residential area, west and as well as the south. Bob showed you earlier some of the proposed developments around the area as well, particularly to the north at Cotton Flower Marketplace, as well as Village Square. And directly to the east is a part of the Canyon Trails development with the Romans establishment currently existing over there. And of course to the northwest or the northeast corner of Yuma Road and Cotton Lane, you have the Canyon Trails Town Center. Now, the exhibit that I'm about to show you is actually the third page of the site plan and elevations that the applicant has provided, AFTAB Wireless, on behalf of AT&T. And it's going to focus in on this particular area here. And incidentally, I forgot to mention, this is the home of the Moose Lodge Fraternal Order, which will be moving to make way for eventually for the Cotton Lane or the Loop 303 widening. And here you can see the footprint of the building to the south. The whole site is about 3 acres. The applicant will be leasing a 20 by 30 or 600 square foot lease area located, as I said, about 245 feet west of Cotton Lane. The lease area will, the majority of the footprint will be the equipment shelter, but the centerpiece will be, of course, the 65-foot wireless communication monopalm, which similar proposals have come before you several times. This is actually the second to last page that I'm showing you of that exhibit. It's a 65-foot monopalm with the palm branches at the very top at the 65-foot level. The equipment shelter is at the bottom here with a 8-foot block wall to screen the equipment at the base of the monopalm. Going back to the site plan, there is a 2-to-1 setback requirement in relation to the height of the monopalm. In this case, it's a 135 feet east of the Cotton Flower residential area, and in relation to non-residential land uses, it is a 1-to-1 requirement. So 65-foot monopalm, there's a 135-foot setback from the west and a 65-foot setback from the property to the north, which again is a Cotton Flower village. And at this point, I want to show you just a couple exhibits that the applicant has provided. These are photo simulations. This is looking west towards the site, before and after. Looking west towards a Cotton Flower. And this is looking south, which is also looking towards a portion of Cotton Flower as well. Now, there was a citizen review meeting scheduled back on September the 4th. The HOA, as well as the landowners within 500 feet of the lease area, were notified of this meeting. Again, September 4th at, I believe it was 7 o'clock, and no one had attended the meeting at that time. However, there was a citizen who did come before the Planning and Zoning Commission on September the 17th and expressed some concerns. And just before I got up here, I didn't notice the citizen in the audience today, but I want to acknowledge some of her concerns. This particular citizen owned this particular home, which is almost directly across the lease area of the site. There were two particular concerns that she had expressed. And number one is the radio frequency emissions that, at times have been discussed in the context of wireless communication facilities. To that, I want to particularly note the Federal Telecommunications Act of 1996, and I've noted some or highlighted some of the major points that covers. And basically the fifth bullet point that I provided in the second page there states that state and local governments can't preclude personal wireless communication facilities on the basis of radio frequency emissions, especially when they are within the parameters of the guidelines of the FCC. The other concern that the citizen had was just basically the potential predominant appearance of this 65-foot monopalm, basically about 135 feet away from the rear yard of this particular home. She did suggest, before the commission at the time, she did suggest perhaps planting a couple of real palm trees beside it, so that it doesn't look so artificial, and perhaps not 65-foot palm trees, but something to kind of make it blend in a little better. However, at the conclusion of the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, the commission did recommend approval of this special use request with no additional stipulations other than the 7 that you have before you here. So with that, I'd like to conclude my comments and open it up to any questions that you might have. The applicant is here as well to entertain any questions. Thank you.
Would the applicant like to comment? Any comments from the public? No comments from the public. Okay, thank you. Could I have a motion to approve the request, please?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve a special use permit to allow a wireless communication facility at Moose Lodge property as described by staff.
Second.
Motion from Vice Mayor Antoniak and a second from Councilmember Holland. Open for discussion. Member Osborne?
In the past, we've had areas within the city where we've had monopalms. I think monopalms are great disguise. In the other areas, there have been times where there have been 3 locating together. Is there a possibility of that happening here? Because I don't remember.
3 service providers on the same monopole.
No, where they've actually, there's been more than one monopomp.
Isn't Pebble Creek one of them?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, Pebble Creek.
And, which in a way, it makes its own little forest by having a few of them together. But do we even have, if that was ever even a consideration, is there even room at this site to even do that?
Well, Angela, comment on your first point, Mayor, Councilmember Osborne. The site, one of the examples that you're speaking of course, is out at Pebble Creek. We do encourage stealth monopalms, as in this case. Staff has encouraged that providers do group them together. If, for example, there's one existing, as you know, if the council is so inclined to approve this, and we have another one from a different provider, we would certainly encourage that they locate into facilities such as this. Currently, the ordinance requires that facilities such as monopoles, I don't want to say monopalms, be located 1,320 feet apart from one another unless there's an absolute necessity, and that burden would be on the applicant to approve that there is such a necessity. However, at the time, that provision was made with the consideration towards some of the more conventional monopoles. And in fact, we are planning staff is currently reviewing the zoning ordinance to see, or I should say, we will be coming before you to make a recommendation to remove that particular requirement so that we can not only encourage stealth wireless communication facilities, and not even necessarily monopalms, but that they do be grouped together in order to create a more natural appearance.
Okay. We've also had varying heights. Now, I can understand this resident's concern of 65 feet. Is there an issue of making it 50 feet? Where then you could have real palm trees that look a little better.
Mayor, Councilmember Osborne, the only way I can address that is by saying that the height, it was determined by a number of different studies based on radio frequency and so forth.
That's why I asked, because I don't know.
Right. But as far as the technicalities of it and why exactly this was determined to provide the best service to the customers in the area, I'll have to defer that to the applicant.
Okay. Could the applicant answer that?
My name is Jeannie Bullard, just like Bullard Avenue, and I represent AT&T Wireless. I need to state my address at this time? Yes. Address is 8766 East Via de Encanto, Scottsdale, Arizona. I know that every time that we locate somewhere near residential, we do obviously try to go as low as possible because we do understand the concerns of residents. I personally, as the site acquisition person for this one, brought up with our engineers, our radio frequency engineers, if we could go lower. And because of the area that we need to cover, 65 is required. Another reason that we chose that particular area was because of the cotton flower development that's going to be there, which will, as they put in their buildings and their landscaping, it won't just be standing out there alone. Also, Moose Lodge, I know, will be moving, and isn't the freeways coming through there, Farhad? And so it'll be near the freeway also. So we look at all kinds of things when we come in and try to locate. So that's why the height, though. We tried to go lower.
I appreciate that, and I just wanted to ask, and that was going to be the next question, was the Cotton Flower Marketplace, did we have any idea as...
Are they going to have any palm trees?
Oh, no, how high their buildings were, and so, because that would offset it, I agree. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
What would be wrong with having palm trees around lower the lower area?
There's nothing wrong with that. It's obviously just more of an investment, and we do, when we build the stealth monopalms, it is much more of an investment by us to do so, and that would mean additional, but we have done it in the past. Obviously, we plant the smaller ones, and it takes a while to grow, but we have done that if required.
I'd like you to try that here.
You would?
Do you want that to be a stipulation? Or
Yeah.
You're going to have to make a motion then.
I move that smaller palm trees surround the base of this antenna area. So moved.
Do you have a height that you'd like him to start with?
What would you like?
Oh, I mean, I'm just asking.
Well,
'cause
I think they should be, they're covering up the wall at least that you build around the feature itself.
Do we want to wait until some of the other construction is done?
How high is that wall?
That's an 8-foot wall.
8 foot? I would see nothing wrong with a 12-foot palm. Okay?
Are you stipulating that you'd like, your motion includes 2, or?
Well, enough to surround to make it attractive.
That would really be, that's a landscape requirement usually then. And there aren't any out there, are there?
Bare land right now, correct?
Yes, it
Bare
is.
land,
Bare land.
except for the lodge.
It's pretty well dirt around the lodge, too.
The lodge needs to
Dick,
Oh,
do you want to, or do you want
The lodge is going.
Mr. Mayor?
go. Well, he hasn't gotten a second yet. Let me just, are you,
Why don't we say 12 foot on each corner of the fence area or the security area?
Is there, can I just ask, is there any way that we could propose this on a delayed decision? So when we see what they're building around it, I mean, what we're looking at is we're looking at an isolated case here before the other buildings. Not that I'm opposing what you're saying, but nothing's done. The road's not in. You know what I'm saying? The shopping center's not in.
I'm open to that. I really think that there needs to be some vegetation around it to beautify
That's why
it
they need it
and to
now.
satisfy the complaint or the concern of the one person that came to your meeting.
Mayor, you don't have a second.
So-
And
Okay, all right.
if
I think two need to, I feel two need to go in with the monopalm itself. At least two. I don't think that's a big deal.
2?
Two 12-foot palms should go in with the fencing and with the monopalm all at once.
Is that your motion?
okay.
Okay, I have a motion to add 2 12-foot, these are king palms, is that what they're called? Not, these are the,
Whatever kind will match what
yeah, they, I need
And the space is adequate for that? I mean, before we
Concrete
make
doesn't take
these
much
decisions, do we know that?
No, we don't know that.
How about if we make a motion for the staff to work with the applicant on this subject and see what makes sense? Is that good?
Okay, let's do it that
So
way.
we don't need a motion then, we'll just,
Yeah.
okay?
But it will be noted that staff will work with
That's a
our
good way to have it, in the minutes.
with our intent. Okay.
So noted.
I'm fine. I'm fine.
There's no water out there.
Okay, enough on that subject, right?
I do have one question.
Okay, no, but we're happy with that. Okay, the staff and the applicant will work on the landscaping, an attractive landscaping to somewhat disguise this monopole. Monopalm. It isn't necessary that you do it, but you're going to investigate it. Okay, good?
Good, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Jane.
Okay, Vice Mayor, you're next.
You answered it. Let's vote on it.
Okay.
Let's vote on it.
No, the man to your right has something to say.
Really? He does?
Councilmember Cavalier?
Yes. Just a question. What if we were to vote against this? If we voted this down, what does that mean?
So you don't get it.
I mean, would you go somewhere else? Is there a alternative to it? Is there, what is the
I don't think they have
alternative?
to answer that question. That's the applicant's decision, and I don't think she has to answer that right now. You know, we're putting her in a spot.
Yeah.
Well, I'm
Fair,
just
Frank.
curious, what, you know, what,
Frank, we got a couple of palms though.
Well, it's just that I would think with the town center being catty corner across the street, there's a school behind that. There's places where you could put these towers that would blend in with the lighting of the school fields or blend in with the lighting of the shopping center or something. I would think that, there'd be a better place than right there next to that residential neighborhood for that tower. That's all. I mean, it's just...
I guess it's a valid question. Is there an alternate location?
No, there is not. And unfortunately, when they're building networks, and obviously you know that we're mandated by government to provide service to our users. And we have to provide that fairly quickly also, and as you know, you're expanding quite a bit over there. To wait until other developments are done delays the expansion of the networks. And there's so much that goes into it that even I'm not really aware of. But I know that a lot of times when we do try to go with the developers, it takes much, much longer to get it in and integrate it into a development that's coming in the future. And I do that sometimes if that's the only thing that's there. But we thought this was particularly a good spot because of what was going in around it, including, and at that time there wasn't, that I saw, because we try not to say, oh, well, I want this spot because there's going to be a future development. But that's a future development, and we usually need it at the time because we're getting, the reason that we have a regional area, a little search ring, as we call it, is because we've been getting a great many drop calls, and also a lot of residents have been complaining. And so we try to respond as quickly as possible.
Have you approached Vestar in that shopping center?
No, we have not. We do work with Vestar and are in a couple of theirs, but they're not particularly that easy to work with when you're trying to put something into an upcoming development. It's really quite a process.
Dan, and he was just here.
You guys passed each other in the hall.
Yeah, darn. Any other questions?
What's the proximity to the service territory that you serve with each one? Like, is it a 3-mile radius kind of thing, or 5-mile radius?
Usually, again, it depends. We usually do something like anywhere from 3 to 5, depending upon the amount of service that's going to. Sometimes we'll become overloaded on one and have to put one within the service area for overload. So it depends, again, on how many people are using it. But usually it's about 3.5, 4, unless, again, it's overloaded and we have to as we call, dump some onto another site. So.
Mayor, I feel like there are alternatives for this, and I feel it's not, I cannot support this. So I'd be voting no on this.
Okay. Further discussion? Okay. All right, then, we have an agreement. I do believe that entered into the minutes will be that the staff and the applicant will consider options, landscaping options to make this area more attractive. And I would suggest that whenever that is accomplished, and there's no rush to do that, that you'll provide us with the yellow paper as to the result of that deliberation. Is that agreed? Okay, all those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye, please. Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
Vote is 5 to 2, correct? Okay. We'll now move to information items, comments on current events from council.
Mr. Mayor, you want to mention the tour that we took?
Go ahead.
The mayor and several others took a tour of the Estrella Falls shopping area the other day. It was quite enlightening, and when you see the end result of this project, this city is going to be very, very mighty proud of what we've been able to accomplish. in cooperation with the city and Westcorp. So I was pleasantly surprised of what I saw and what I would futurize what is going to be created and is well underway right now for what this city is going to be whole in the next couple of years. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Osborne?
I have a comment. I think some of you have read about it in the newspaper last week, but I got to be there firsthand. There was a fire in my neighborhood, a few doors down from my home. There was a fire on the back porch of a house, and I happened to be there right as it began. And I got to see our mutual aid work, and that was pretty exciting. You know, we all believe that we have a great fire department, police department, but I got to see it firsthand. And Officer Henderson arrived on the scene first, grabbed a fire extinguisher, tried to put it out, and I wish I had gotten the name of a gentleman that was with Southwest Gas that happened to be in the neighborhood, ran up to the scene, turned off the power and the gas to the home. You know, great job on his part. But then the Avondale Fire Department showed up, first on the scene, got their hoses out to put the fire out. Then our Goodyear Fire Department came, all dressed in their gear to go get the little animals. And that was exciting. The house is full of smoke. And then the Tolleson battalion chief was there. And so I'm like, everybody's here. This was just, it was wonderful to see firsthand how it all worked. So I was very proud of our departments. And I think I was stealthily dressed in my workout gear, so I don't think anybody knew it was me. But that day or the next day, we had that tire fire issue come up. That's not in our city, but is on the southern Sonoran Valley end. And guess what? Our guys were first on the scene. And that area could be a complete detrimental impact to our state, depending on how the wind blows, to our city. And thank God they were there. And I'm just very, very pleased to know that, you know what, our southernmost border came in handy. So, thank you.
I would just echo Joanne. As a neighbor on the other side of the neighbors, I got phone calls within 5 or 10 minutes of everything going down, and just really appreciated the response. There was one aspect you forgot. There was some 19-year-old, 20-year-old girl walking.
Right.
We got to figure out who this person is, but she was walking to work, and she scaled 2 neighbors' fences in order to go into this backyard and figure out what was going on and help Tammy, the owner of the house, concurrent to the police officer and everybody else, but in her work gear, walking down the other street, you know, trespassed through a neighbor's house, over the woods and through the trees, literally, to the other folks' house. So it really was a shared response, both from citizens, police, and fire. So it was definitely very much appreciated.
Mr. Mayor, just one clarification. Officer Henderson was from the police department.
Right, yes. I'm sorry.
No, I just want to make that
okay.
clear for the public. It was a truly joint effort.
Mm-hmm.
It was good. It was a good stop, too. Stopped a big loss. If all that hadn't been taken place, you'd have had a $400,000 house in the ground. There's no doubt about that.
One last comment before we go see him, and that is that the parade, the Billy Moore Parade, annual parade was Saturday, and I want to thank the fire department for the use of their 1942 fire truck, and Bob Marshall, who dedicated his time to it.
That's my turn.
And also Keith Brown, Raul. He was there, and he had his 2 daughters, and they had 2 of their friends, and they handed out candy for the whole time. So appreciate the help that you gave me, and need it. It's a lot of candy.
They like that candy.
Okay, city manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. I have 5 items this evening that I want to report on, but I also want to add a 6th. The 6th item is the Water Department, Water Resources Department, under the leadership of Sean Bradford and Jerry Postma, received today, or a couple days ago, a grant in the amount of $409,200. And that's really great, so thank you. It comes at a time when all kinds of money is gratefully accepted. This was from the EPA as a payment towards the arsenic treatment system at one of our well sites, Site 18, Well 18B. We applied for it in 2007. The grant was approved and provided by the EPA. Matt Hansen provided information to EPA, and we received on October 16th $409,200. So that was really great. So thank you. Then if we can put
That's
this-
another win that Matt's included in, right? Man, it sure
If we can
pays off
put
to have
on
him.
the screen, then, the city manager's report. I'm trying this evening to provide the yellow papers visually so that they might be a little clearer to the public in trying to present them to the council. You get them the week before, so just trying that as an experiment. The first report is on the mayor's trip. Go ahead and turn the page. On the mayor's trip to Washington, D.C. For the potential F-35 mission at Luke Air Force Base. It was a very good trip. The mayor went representing the West Valley and with the West Valley partners to discuss the Luke Air Force Base. The F-35 training mission is assigned to Elgin Air Force Base in Florida, and the United States Air Force is seeking a second base for the F-35 program. The issues related to the F-35 program that the mayor and the other visitors got to talk about with the Air Force officials and the Lockheed Martin manufacturer are the noise concerns, the runways, the emissions, and the encroachment issues. The West Valley partners are working very diligently to encourage the United States Air Force to grant the highest priority to the Barium Goldwater Range for funding range improvements. Jim, is there anything that you want to add to that, or?
It's the second base is for training. It's a second training base, not a combat-ready operational base that they're looking at there. And just the F-35, they're going to build them, even in a reduced financial situation, in the thousands because of the international opportunities. And the three services in the U.S., they all want. The Air Force wants 1,000. I forget the Marines and the Navy. But it's interesting that, and all these issues are very important, and they have to be dealt with. But the F-22 and the F-35, from those people who fly it, are totally different from the 16, the 15, and the 18. And those three airplanes simply cannot compete with these two airplanes. The pilots in these two airplanes say it's almost too easy. It's an incredible advance in technology for fighter aircraft, and we need these. So.
Thank you. The next project I'd like to report on is the, Mario, I guess we'll push the buttons, the environmental impact statement for the Sonoran Valley Parkway. I'd like to talk to you about that for the moment. I told you recently that we would look at that. Montage is required to fund the design and the construction of the two-lane roadway from the Rainbow Valley Road to Amaranth. Montage retained services of Stephen W. Carruthers and Associates. We refer to them as SWCA, the environmental consultants, to prepare the EIS. The estimated cost to complete it, it's about 20% done at the present time. The estimated cost to complete it is about $450,000 to $500,000. The EIS preparation process, BLM, Bureau of Land Management, recommends an MOU between the city and BLM. And then the MOU provides that Goodyear contract with SWCA and fund the EIS. The BLM provides the oversight, and BLM will maintain the administrative record for the Sonoran Valley Parkway. Once the EIS is complete, the BLM will issue a record of decision which provides for the right-of-way alignment. The city then applies, when it's ready, for a grant of easement for the right-of-way. That does not have to take place immediately after the report of decision. As long as the city pursues the project and keeps the BLM updated, this is after the easement is granted, the easement will not expire. So basically, the term of the easement is 30 years. but you don't even have to ask for it once the EIS is completed. So it could be for 45 years, for example. Given those facts, we looked at the developer obligations. The developer, Montage, is responsible for funding all the costs associated with the Sonoran Valley Parkway. As a part of the Sonoran Valley infrastructure improvements and development fee study, staff proposed regional transportation fee to fund the parkway. And the schedule that we're following there is tonight, you adopted the notice of intent. On January 12th, we have the public hearing scheduled. On February 23rd, 2009, we have the council considering the adoption of those fees. And on May 11th, 2009, we have the implementation of the new fees. Given those factors and the fact that Montage has at the moment asked SWCA to not go further with the project because of their finances right now, we have taken a careful look at should the city step in and fund the completion of the EIS. All of you will recall that to get the EIS approved in the first place with BLM was a major accomplishment. And to set that aside and throw it away, we don't believe is in the best interest of the city. So our recommendation is that we take funding that is earmarked for the Transportation Master Plan. You'll recall you deferred action on that last December. We were supposed to bring it back this December, and that happens to be $500,000, that we take that money and apply it to doing the EIS and completing it. And therefore, we would defer the action on the Transportation Master Plan, which we don't believe will cause us any problems, the delay of that. It will take approximately 2 years to complete the EIS, and as I said, there is no expiration date once the EIS decision is reached. So we will be in a position to recoup the $500,000 plus the interest that we've spent from Amaranth if and when they do proceed to develop. The funding for Transportation Master Plan, as I mentioned, is what's being reallocated. That is our recommendation. If you are interested enough, then we will bring back to the council an action reallocating those funds. Any reaction?
No, I have a question for
Mine
the
is
mayor.
very positive. Do you need that, or?
You talked about, Mayor, before when we brought that transportation plan up, you gave us a reason why we should delay it, and it was because of the other studies.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that correct? Isn't that what happened that night? When are those other studies all? Can you just refresh my memory? Do you remember that night? That's why we actually delayed that transportation studies, because you said MAG there were certain transportation studies that were being done, and that you felt they should be finished before we made any decision on this. So.
Well, yeah, the two main were the Hacienda and the Hidden Valley. Those, one is signed off, the other is not. The 303 alignment is not determined.
Okay.
So there's still a lot of vacant holes out there in transportation. That doesn't mean we couldn't move forward with our transportation plan if the funding's available.
Quite frankly, Mr. Mayor, this could dovetail into a potential 303 right-of-way, so that it would be a potential funding source for the city, is to have the 303 follow this route.
Is this the right-of-way for the 303?
No, it is. It hasn't been determined where it's. We met
Okay,
with them
so
last.
this could become the right-of-way?
Could be, yes.
Okay.
And that is theoretically a possibility. We met with them last week about the right-of-way from I-10 south to MC-85 and the different overpasses that they intend to build on that. But we did not go further south into the Sonoran Valley.
Okay.
But if...
I'm sorry.
Excuse me. I was just going to say, because I know you can't make a decision, but if I don't hear other directions, what I will do is bring forward a motion or resolution reallocating the funds from the Master Transportation Plan to the EIS and complete the work with SWCA.
one question. When you, I guess in the work session, had discussed the EIS previously, maybe I'm confused. I thought you said something about there being a 4 to 5 year window. What was that?
Okay. At the time, we were still trying to get definitively from the BLM and from the federal government what the definitive answer was for how long is an EIS good for. We now have that once the decision is reached, that is good until you then ask for the right-of-way alignment, and then once you ask for and you can put that on hold for 12 years, for example. Then once you ask for the right-of-way alignment, now if there are any changes that have taken place in the Sonoran Valley, you can be asked to process an amendment, but amendment is a lot easier than trying to get the BLM to agree to do an EIS. Then you can ask for the right-of-way, and then that's good for 30 years.
Okay.
So
Okay. Well, that obviously is more positive.
we found that all of the years, times fit in very well.
Okay. I guess my concern, though, is that staff brought us that transportation master plan with urgency. It was needed, and if I believe it's been 20 years since the last one had taken place.
It has been 20 years, and I've talked with the staff about it. There is no, quote, urgent need for it. It's more of it's been 20 years, let's redo it, and it is needed, no question about it. But I believe that this is more important than is the transportation master plan. We still have enough information to do our plans for the city of Goodyear on our books right now that updating them is not really necessary at this moment.
Okay. I thought it was only 250 pounds.
Vice Mayor?
I guess questions related to the EIS, withstanding where the funding's coming from. Is there a public procurement process? Who's responsible for that? Is it BLM or is it us?
I can't answer that right now, Mr.
I guess
Vice
I'm
Mayor.
not. You don't have to answer them, but these are questions I think need to be figured out. We don't just assume that SWCA is the best potential contractor.
I think we
just
went
because-
through a public procurement
Did we?
process to get them, but I'll
BLM?
find out. Yes.
Okay. If we did with BLM, great. Then we've got a public procurement process.
BLM.
Then we're talking about becoming the funding agent. We did not?
BLM, I believe, went through it, no? We'll
I think
find
that's
out.
something you need to investigate, because if we're going to be the ones paying for it, we need to make sure Title 34 has been adhered. 34, right? 24. 34? That's 34? 34. We got to make sure that that's been adhered to. Second, EISs tend to take on a life of their own. So convince me how you're going to cap it at $500,000 and that it's going to get done in 2 years, because I can quote a litany of EISs that we're doing across the state right now that have had horizons of 2 years or 3 years, 36 months, even by federal standards to be done within 36 months, and we've gotten extensions on those because of
All I
public
can tell you,
processes.
Mr. Vice Mayor Antoniak, is that I've done a lot of EISs over the years. I know exactly what you're saying.
Yep.
This one seems like 2 years is reasonable,
Okay.
and we've already been going a year at it, so it's going to be a 3-year project. I believe that that's going to be sufficient time. So, but we will.
I guess what I'm concerned about is oftentimes these tend to take on a life of their own. They tend to get scope creep, what we call scope creep in the industry.
I understand that completely.
And so I don't want to see us invest $500,000 only to 2 years from now be faced with a consultant bill of another $250,000 in order to complete the project over the following year. And so I guess there's some assurances maybe to some extent that I'd like to see if we're going to be voting on it.
Certainly understand that.
Just questions for when you come. I'm not necessarily opposed to doing the EIS down there.
It just seems to us that the best thing is to be proactive.
Right.
And for the future of Montage is to keep the roadway project moving forward.
Don't
and this
disagree.
will do that. And the money will come from the HERF, I believe, Cato, from the HERF monies, which we're going to go, so it's not general fund, but it will come from the HERF fund that would be applied to the transportation master plan.
I'll just add that we did ask for Pastor and Mary Rose support And I was at the meeting with them, and if Pastor was not there, BLM probably would not nearly be as far along as they are. And I think he would be disconcerted if we walked away from this.
That entered into our consideration.
Because we got it because of him.
Thank you.
BLM was going nowhere. They had no interest in this until he. I shouldn't say that, but it wasn't obvious to me that they did. So.
Thank you.
Wasn't front and center.
The third item that I'd like to talk about is the Vice Mayor Antoniak asked us for voter authorization outstanding bonds for the city of Goodyear. So we have put together this table, and it lists down the left side the purpose of the bonds that the voters were asked to approve: public safety, parks and rec facilities, public buildings, etc., on down to transportation. The type of the bonds are either 20% GO or 6% GO, and there's only one 6% GO, that's the public buildings and library, because the Constitution was amended in 2006, moving transportation and public safety into the 20% category. And the sewer systems and street and highway and water systems and transportation and revenue bonds, so that's what the REV means. The voters approved those amounts totaling $342,250,000. There have been elections in 1988, 1994, the year 2000, and the year 2004. There is discussions about doing a 2008, but now with the markets the way they are and everything, I doubt that we'll be coming forward to you at this time. We'll be coming forward sometime in the future. The amount issued is the amount that we've issued against the amount approved. And you can see the amounts left, roughly half of the money is left that's authorized. Of that, the highlights I would point out are my glasses, I go. Under public buildings and library, there's only been $405,000 issued. That is the funding for the CIP for the city center that you approved last week. Not the funding that you approved, but that was the funding that we talked about in there that would be approved over the next few years. Most of the other funds are not really dedicated to anything right now. The parks and rec facilities are probably going to go towards the Foothills Park. The looking at the public safety, $2.25 million, and the $17 million for fire protection, there could be some possibility there of working on a training facility for the fire department and the police department once we decide on where that's going to go. So we're renewing our efforts to make that decision, to bring it forward to you for a decision. But basically, these are the funds that are available to us that have been authorized by the voters. Now, the next slide, if I could just move on before I see if there are any questions. Councilmember Osborne had asked about the city center debt service. And this slide shows how that is calculated. 2007, the actual assessed valuation was $494 million, $913,013. 2008, it jumped up to $764,237,000. In 2009, the assessed value that's on the books right now for Maricopa County for the city of Goodyear is $1,721,049. Now, those are the actual numbers, and those are what we calculate our bonds against to come up with how much can we borrow. The estimated 2010, the county has already estimated that it's going down. We have conservatively estimated that it will go down to $850 million. I believe Larry has talked with me extensively about this. I believe that is a conservative estimate. But we're estimating $850 million, and then we're estimating that it will come back up $50 million in 2011. So those are the conservative numbers that we based on the figures that we provided to you for the city center funding, how that was going to be repaid. There are several factors that obviously will affect this. One is that the assessed value estimates above and how that they go. I mean, if the housing market just keeps going into the tank, obviously this will change, and we'll have to defer or put off the city center project. The combined primary and secondary property tax rate of $1.60. If we can't do it within that $1.60, that will obviously affect what we can and can't do. And then approximately, we're assuming that approximately $3.8 million of the utility debt service will be funded out of development impact fees or utility rates. So those are the things that we're considering when we take these into account as compared to the debt service. I hope that answers your question, Councilmember Osborne.
Thank you.
And Mr. Antoniak, I hope that provides the information that you were seeking. The last item, I believe, is the mayor asked us to take a look at the 10-6 meeting. He asked us that we consider as part of the budget considerations next year the transaction privilege sales tax. You'll recall that on June 9th, we brought to you a recommendation that the transaction privilege sales tax be increased for hotels from 5.5% to 3%, making it a total of 5%. And then there was the option of increasing it 1% to 3.5%, and that total would be 5.5%. The additional revenues from these two options would be $110,000 per year if we increased it 0.5%, or 0.5%, excuse me, and 1% increase would generate $221,000 per year. And what that does to us in comparison to the other cities is shown on this table. You have a low of 3.2% sales tax in Surprise, Litchfield Park 3.8%, then Avondale goes right up to where we're at 4.5, Goodyear 4.5, Tolleson 4.5, and then Glendale's 5.6, and Peoria is 5.6. If we did a 5.5% increase, you'd see that we'd be at 5%, so we'd be the third highest. And if we went to a 1% increase, we'd be at 5.5%, we'd still be the third highest. So this gives you a parameter of the types of increases that we're talking about, and we will be considering this as a part of the budget process and coming back to you. So we aren't looking for any direction or decision. We just wanted to let you know, in response to Mayor Kavanaugh's question, what this was about. Then the other one that we had looked at was the $5,000 tax, and on that one we have not done anything. So, Mr. Mayor, that's what I have this evening. Thank you. And also we will be working with AT&T to consider options for the landscaping of their wireless tower and produce a yellow paper for you as to how we can work with that. And I will be checking on the SWCA procurement process and everything before we bring that back. That's it, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Inquiries of staff by council.
Afraid to ask questions.